As the Dallas Mavericks are off to a subpar start to the NBA season, they currently sit with a 5-6 record. And although the NBA trade deadline is many months away, the Dallas Mavericks could benefit from improving their roster to help fix some of their key issues, such as rebounding, starting the games off with very poor energy, and even help close out games in clutch moments. The Dallas Mavericks aren't in a bad situation, but they could do better. And a report that came out just the other day highlights two key trade targets that the Dallas Mavericks could go after by the trade deadline to improve the roster. So in this video, we're going to take a look at exactly who those two players are, whether or not I think they could fit in our system, as well as is it too early to even talk about trades? But how's it going, everybody? My name is Marcel Martin. This is Mavs Digest, bringing the latest news on everything Mavericks related. And before we get started with today's video, I just want to remind you guys, this Friday on November 15th, starting at 9 a.m. Central Time to 9 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, I will be doing a 24-hour charity event. I'm going live for a full 24 hours playing games, interviewing other content creators, and just having a good time, all to raise funds for the relief efforts in the Philippines that have been hit by typhoons. So if you want to come hang out with me as I play video games, interview other creators like Slightly Biased or Nick from Locked On Mavs, as well as a special guest from one of your favorite Dallas Mavericks rosters, make sure you tune in on Friday. It's going to be a good time, and all the proceeds will go to the All Hands and Hearts Foundation. But like I said in the intro, the Dallas Mavericks were off to a not really a great start, not the worst start, a very mid start, as the Dallas Mavericks are currently sitting with a 5-6 record, and in those 6 games, we seem to have lost in the same fashion, at least for the majority of the time. We come out with very low energy, where we're almost always down in the first quarter, having to fight our ways back. We always get out-rebounded, it feels like. The turnovers haven't been a big issue. Free throws have been pretty decent, but at least the last 3 games, the Dallas Mavericks have lost by 1, 2, and 3 points to the top 3 teams in the West in the fourth quarter, where we were fighting. We were hanging in there. We were hitting shots, playing defense. We were actually building a lead. And in those last 3 games against the Phoenix Suns, the Denver Nuggets, as well as the Golden State Warriors, it was always those last 3 minutes where things just shift for the team, and unfortunately they weren't able to get the dub. And although the NBA trade deadline isn't until February, and the Dallas Mavericks, I truly believe, just need time to gel, build that chemistry, learn how to play off each other, as well as Jason Kidd understanding the team better from a coaching perspective and knowing what rotations work, what lineups work, how do I get these guys more involved and help fix some of those more coaching aspect and coaching oriented issues that Jason Kidd can definitely fix. But if we are going to talk about trades, there are 2 potential trade targets that Bleacher Report has thrown out there as 2 targets that the Dallas Mavericks could potentially benefit from. So if we take a look at the first target, who they title their dream target, is Dorian Finney-Smith, who was once my favorite Dallas Maverick, one of my favorite Dallas Mavericks. I got his jersey hanging up in my closet. But the article says Klay Thompson and Najee Marshall will make up for the free agency departure of Derrick Jones Jr. But the Dallas Mavericks should still be looking to hoard as many big wings and two-way combo forwards as possible if they want to make a better showing in a hypothetical finals rematch against the Celtics. Finney-Smith established himself as a valuable starter during his 6 seasons in Dallas, making a fan of Luka Doncic in the process. The Brooklyn Nets probably hope to get a first-round pick for Dorian Finney-Smith, which might be steep for the Mavericks, but hey, we're dreaming here. And I would argue that Dorian Finney-Smith isn't technically a dream target. I think that's more of a realistic target for the Dallas Mavericks. If the Dallas Mavericks are to make any trades whatsoever before the trade deadline or at the trade deadline, I don't think we're going to swing for the fences and try to go after a big name target like Lauri Markkanen or any other player like that. I don't think we're getting a 4th star to join this team. If any trades were to happen, there would be just role players, guys that can be reliable off the bench, guys that can help replace players as injuries come and go. And I think Dorian Finney-Smith wouldn't be the worst player that we could get. As far as a first-round pick, by the trade deadline, the Dallas Mavericks have to really assess that team and whether or not that first-round pick is worth getting someone like Dorian Finney-Smith, or if the team is good as is, we could pass up on him. But just to go over his stats so far for the NBA season, Dorian Finney-Smith is averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 0.6 blocks, 1.2 steals, 1.3 turnovers, and 3.8 fouls per game, while shooting 44% from the field and 34% from 3. And as all Mavericks fans, or at least how the Dallas Mavericks fans should know, that Dorian Finney-Smith was a gem for us. Like I said earlier, he was one of my favorite players while he was here, providing great defense. He was a very tall and long player, so he could definitely work in the zone defense that apparently we just love to throw out at teams, as well as his 3-point shooting, although it's 34%, I'd argue with the Dallas Mavericks Mavericks, it felt more like 40%. He was a very smart shooter. Didn't really hesitate, but he didn't really just let it fly like a Tim Hardaway Jr. And the Dallas Mavericks, they have a penchant for just bringing back old Mavericks players. Look at Seth Curry, someone who's been on the team for about 4 times. We saw Spencer Dinwiddie, he's back for his 2nd time. The Dallas Mavericks, as far as I can remember, they love to bring back players who were once on the team previously and try to run it back with them. And I think Dorian Finney-Smith could work in this Dallas Mavericks roster. Now, what do we give up for him? You would most likely have to include a 1st-round pick. And if at the time the Dallas Mavericks are in a good situation, if we're a top 4 seed in the West, I don't think we need to move a 1st-round pick. But if we're towards the 8th seed where we're fighting for a play-in spot, that 1st-round pick might be something that we can move if we think we can push out of that play-in and into the playoff spot. Last season, we were sitting around the 5th to 7th seed, teetering back and forth. And after the trade deadline, we were able to solidify ourselves as a 5th seed and go all the way to the NBA Finals. But if we do make the trade for Dorian Finney-Smith, what would that actually look like aside from a 1st-round pick? You may have to trade Maxey, and I'm not sure if Maxey's a player that the Nets would typically want. They did just trade away Bridges for 5 1st-round picks, so maybe they do want younger players. So you would have to look at Omax or Jaden Hardy, or both Omax, Jaden Hardy, and a 1st-round pick. I think that would be exactly what the Nets would bite for if we were to trade for Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, that would help us in the short term. Dorian Finney-Smith isn't really getting any younger. If I just throw his stats back up, he is 31 years old. That isn't really old. That's still relatively young, but for Dorian Finney-Smith and for what he can provide, he is getting up there in age. 10 points and 5 rebounds off the bench isn't nothing to sneeze at. I think we could actually use that production fairly well. And being a 6'7" forward, he would obviously back up PJ Washington or really any forward, the 3 or the 4. If you want to go small, sure, put Dorian at the 4, but I think he'd be more at the 3, replacing Klay Thompson more than PJ Washington. But I think Dorian Finney-Smith would be great for the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not sure if that price tag would be beneficial. Like I said, the short term, that definitely helps us out right now as we're trying to fight back to the finals. But in the long term, you don't want to give up too many young players like Omax and Hardy and a 1st-round pick. I think that would be a little bit too egregious. But like I said, it all depends on where we're at the trade deadline. But there was a second player that Bleacher Report did suggest that the Dallas Mavericks could go after. And this was their realistic target, and that was Gary Payton II of the Golden State Warriors, saying the Golden State Warriors can't realistically expect to field a 12-man rotation all year, and Payton might be one of their more expendable pieces. For the Mavs, Gary Payton II's chaotic defense and disruption could add a new element, creating turnovers and triggering more transition attacks from Dončić and Kyrie Irving. At present, the Mavericks don't really have a high-energy guard who can muck up the game in a good way. And when I saw this at first, I'm like, why would the Dallas Mavericks get rid of Gary Payton II? They had a whole debacle about a year or two ago when it came to free agency and whether he was coming back or not, or if he got traded or not. And he obviously fits their team very well, but this article is right. We don't necessarily have a high-energy guard. Obviously, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, they do provide energy, but, and I know you probably hate to hear this, but we don't have a Derrick Jones Jr. We don't have a point of attack defender, and Gary Payton II could easily be that not Dorian Finney-Smith, that Derrick Jones Jr. for us. He isn't tall and long like a Derrick Jones Jr., but he does provide excellent on-ball defense and point of attack defense as well. If we do take a look at his stats for the season, we see right here that Gary Payton II is averaging 5 points, 1.6 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 0.4 blocks, 0.6 steals, 0.5 turnovers, and 1.5 fouls per game, while shooting 70% from the floor and 28% from 3. And like I said, he is 6'2". He's also 31 years old, just like Dorian Finney-Smith. So if we were to make a trade with the Golden State Warriors, that price tag can't be too high. Like I said, you would be kind of buying on a premium because you are getting him for his defense. His offense is there. He can attack the basket. He has high energy. Maybe not as athletic as a Derrick Jones Jr., so we won't be throwing many lobs to him. But his defense is exactly what could tie this Dallas Mavericks team together to really make us back, or put us back in that spot of the best defensive team in the league. But what does that price tag look like? We would most likely have to trade maybe a veteran, maybe a Spencer Dinwiddie, maybe one of our better defenders. Maybe they are looking at Quentin Grimes. We saw that Quentin Grimes didn't want to re-sign with the Mavericks, so maybe we do a sign and trade. We sign the extension. We trade Quentin Grimes to the Warriors. Maybe we have to send them a pick as well just to make it work. And if that was the price tag for Gary Payton, I don't want to give up on Quentin Grimes just yet. But again, if by February, if this team is in a bad spot where we're trying to fight for a playoff spot or a play-in spot, then yes, we would definitely have to take a long look at the roster, see what doesn't work, and see what could work. But let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think it's too early to really think about trades? I feel like it's too early, but it is something that we do need to keep somewhere in the back of our minds as we continue with these games. In the upcoming 10 games that the Dallas Mavericks have seem pretty easy. We should at least go 7-3 in my honest opinion. And after that, we can probably revisit these trade talks and see if there's anything that we could actually go after. But that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you for making it this far into the video. Make sure you check out our Twitter and Discord, links in the description below. Consider becoming a channel member. We are doing giveaways every single month on this channel, and the only way to enter our giveaways is to become a channel member of any tier. But until next time, y'all take care, drink water. Peace.